Today I will discuss about my topic characteristics of the newborn. Newborn refers to a baby from birth to 2 months of age. An infant can be considered children anywhere from birth to 1 year old. Here we will discuss about some of the characteristics of the typical newborn infant. Firstly, in general, we will see nurse is in a unique position to aid the newborn infant in the stressful transition from a dark, warm, fluid-filled environment to an outside world filled with light, sound, and novel tactile stimuli, which means that nurse helps the newborn infant to transition from intrauterine life to extrauterine life, from intrauterine stressful transition, warm, dark, fluid filled environment to outside world with light, sound, and novel tactile stimuli. Tactile stimulation means activating the nerve signal beneath the skin surface that later helps in children growth and physical abilities. Here nurse is in a unique position to aid the newborn transition from intrauterine, means from inside the uterus, to extrauterine world, that is outside the uterus. During this period of the newborn, adjusting from intrauterine to extrauterine life, here nurse must be knowledgeable about the newborn's normal biopsychosocial adaptation to recognize any of the deviation. So the nurse should have adequate knowledge, should be knowledgeable about the biopsychosocial adaptation. Biopsychosocial adaptation means the pain which determines by the interaction between biological, psychological, and social factors. We can say biological factors like, for example, cognition, behavior, mood, or social factors like cultural influence. So these are all the biopsychosocial adaptations, and also to recognize any of the deviations. So nurse should be knowledgeable to recognize any of the deviation that is occurring in the newborn. To begin life as an independent being, the baby must immediately establish pulmonary ventilation in conjunction with marked circulatory changes. Means here, to begin life as an independent being, firstly the baby must immediately establish pulmonary ventilation. Pulmonary ventilation means, in simple words we can say, breathing, a process of inspiration or expiration. So this is very important, to establish pulmonary ventilation in conjunction with marked circulatory changes. Circulatory changes takes place as gas exchange takes place in baby's lungs. As we can see at birth, placental blood flow ceases and lungs respiration begins. So it is crucial to maintenance of life, is without breathing child may not survive. So as a nurse, we have to perform an initial assessment of newborn baby to check for any deviation and to evaluate the neonate. And to evaluate the neonates, and we can see all other neonatal body system change their functions or establish themselves over a longer period of time, and nurse perform an initial assessment to evaluate the neonate and its immediate post-birth adaptation and a need for the further support. So here nurse perform an initial assessment to evaluate the neonate. First thing is to evaluate the neonate, and second is its immediate post-birth adaptation, and also third is for the need for further support. So here first thing, here we will see that vital sign of the newborn infant. So firstly, if a nurse is taking a vital sign of a newborn infant, so first and the foremost important thing is temperature regulation. So here we can see that infant body temperature drops immediately after birth in response to the extrauterine environment. Here, his internal organs are poorly insulated and his skin is very thin and does not contain much subcutaneous fat. So here what happened, as infant heat regulation mechanism is not fully developed. So his temperature rapidly reflects that of his environment, and the flexed position of infant is a safeguard against heat loss because it substantially diminishes the amount of body surface exposed. Here in nursing implications, we will see nursing implications are centered on regulating an environment to provide constant body temperature of a neutral thermal environment. So here nurse has to provide the baby a constant body temperature of a neutral thermal environment, and infant should be firstly infant nurse has to place the infant in the radiant warmer at a temperature of 36.5 degrees Celsius, and the infant is placed in blankets, hat and a controlled temperature environment after the birth to counteract the drop in body temperature that occurs immediately after birth. So after admission to the nursery, the infant is placed in isolation. So the infant is placed in isolation, that is isolate. Isolate means it is a self-contained unit that controls the temperature, humidity and oxygen concentration for an infant. So here after admission, the infant is placed in an isolate, a self-contained unit, and temperature probe may be used for continuous monitoring of the infant, and the infant auxiliary temperature is maintained at 36.4 to 37.2 degree Celsius. Then next is pulse rate. Pulse rate, we can also say heart rate. Pulse means number of times heartbeat in 1 minute. So here we will see that the normal pulse range of an infant is 120 to 140 beats per minute, that is BPM. So the rate may rise to 160 beat also 160 beat per minute also when the infant is crying, or it can also drop to 100 beats per minute when the infant is sleeping. So the variation of pulse is changing. It may be high, it may be low according to the condition of a baby. If baby is crying, the pulse rate may rise. If baby is sleeping, pulse rate may drop. And the best spot to feel the pulse in infant is the apical pulse, and it is considered the most accurate. Also the more accurate also we can say apical pulse is more accurate because it provides information on count, rhythm, strength and quality of the heart. So apical pulse is considered most accurate, and also we can see the best spot to feel the pulse of an infant is brachial pulse, that is on upper arm, that is also considered accurate. Then here we will see blood pressure. Blood pressure is the pressure of circulating blood on the walls of blood vessels, we all know this. Then blood pressure, the average blood pressure of an infant, if we will see at birth, the average blood pressure of an infant is 72 to 42 mm of Hg, and a drop in systolic blood pressure of about 15 mm of Hg in the first hour after birth is very common. So here we will see in the first hour after birth a drop of 15 mm of Hg in systolic BP is there, and newborn BP is taken with a Doppler blood pressure device, and this device greatly improves the accuracy. And if we see average BP of a 1 month child through the 2 year, it is 95 to 58 mm of Hg. Then in vital sign, last is respiration. Respiration, here we'll see respiration of a newborn infant are irregular in depth, rate and rhythm, and vary from 30 to 60 beats per minute. So here if we'll see respiration of a newborn infant, so the respiration of newborn infant is irregular in depth, in rate and in rhythm and vary from 30 to 60 beats per minute. And here we will see respiration are affected by the infant's activities. Infant activities like, for example, crying. So normally respiration are gentle, quiet, rapid and shallow, and they are most easily observed by watching the abdominal movement, because the infant respiration are accomplished mainly by the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles. Here we can see in picture, you can see here um, two pictures are there. First is normal respiration and second is seesaw respiration. So as in normal respiration, we can see that chest and abdomen rise with inspiration. That is normal respiration. Here you can see through the arrow that chest and abdomen rise with inspiration. But in seesaw respiration, what happened? Airway obstruction is there as baby attempts to breathe, diaphragm descends. Here you can see the arrow. Here what happened? Chest wall retracts and abdomen rises with inspiration. In normal respiration, both chest and abdomen rise with inspiration, but in here in seesaw respiration, chest wall will retract and abdomen will rise with inspiration. And seesaw respiration is commonly due to airway obstruction. So and also no sound should be audible on inspiration or expiration. If a baby is breathing, inspiration or expiration is taking place, then no audible sound should be there. Then second thing is we will discuss about characteristics of the newborn infant head. So here we will see the newborn infant head represents 1/4 of his total body length. Means the infant head is 1/4 of total body length, and circumference is equal to that of his abdomen or chest. So the circumference of the head is equal to that of abdomen and chest. So here the average size is 13 inch to 14 inch, that is 33 to 35 centimeter, and the head is shaped or molded as it is forced to the birth canal in vertex presentation. So here we will see the head is shaped or molded as it is forced through the birth canal in vertex presentation, that is known as molding. What happened during delivery? For the large head to pass through the small birth canal, the skull bones may actually overlap in a process referred to as molding. Here what happened? The skull bones overlap each other. That is known as molding. And such molding, what they do, they reduces the diameter of the skull temporarily. So they reduces the diameter of the skull temporarily. This elongation usually disappears a few hours after birth as the bone assumes their normal relationship. Here you can see the picture in what happened in vertex presentation or in cephalic presentation. Cephalic or vertex presentation means head enters the pelvic first. So what happened in vertex presentation? Head is here head is overlapping each other. Here you can see in the first picture, head is overlapping each other as it is forced through the birth canal. So here we can and here in second picture you can see that the diameter of the skull is reduced temporarily. So during vertex presentation, what happened? The skull bones overlap each other and the diameter of the skull reduces temporarily, that is known as molding. But here you can see that it usually disappears a few hours after the birth as the bones assume their normal relationship. So the next we will see fontanelles. Fontanelles, here we can see, if we will see the skull bone of an infant, and skull of a baby consists of mainly 5 bones. two frontal, two parietal, and one occipital bone. And the infant skull is separated into 6 bones, one from another along the suture line. Where more than 2 bones come together, the space is called fontanelle. So here where more than 2 bones come together, that space is known as fontanelle. So what happened, the suture meets at fontanelles. So here we will see there are two fontanelles, that is anterior fontanelle and posterior fontanelles. Anterior fontanelle is also known as brachmatic or frontal fontanelle, and anterior fontanelle is a diamond shaped structure, and it mainly closes at 9 to 18 months. And posterior fontanelle is also known as lambdoid or occipital fontanelles, and it is situated at the junction of sagittal and lambdoidal suture, and mainly the posterior fontanelle is triangular in shape and it closes at 6 to 8 weeks. So here we will see where more than 2 bones come together, that space is called fontanelle, and there are 2 types of fontanelle, and this is an unossified space or spot or soft spot between the cranial bones of the skull in an infant. So what is fontanelle? It is an unossified space or soft spot between the cranial bones of the skull in an infant, and infant pulse is sometimes visible there. And here we can see anterior fontanelle is located at the intersection of the sutures of 2 parietal bones and the frontal bone. So here anterior fontanelle is located at 2 parietal bones and frontal bones, and posterior fontanelle, where it is located at the junction of sagittal and lambdoid suture. Here you can see in the picture here you can see anterior fontanelle starting, or here we have seen that first was anterior fontanelle and second was posterior fontanelle. So here you can see in the picture, first is anterior fontanelle, that is a diamond shaped structure, and second at the back is posterior fontanelle, that is a triangular shaped structure. And also you can see the sutures, that is sagittal sutures, coronal suture, lambdoid suture, and frontal sutures. And here we can also see parietal bone, occipital bone, and frontal bone. So there are 3 bones, and here we can see suture, sagittal suture, lambdoid suture, coronal suture, and frontal suture. So the sutures meet at the fontanelles. Here we can see that all these sutures meet at fontanelles. Then next we will see cephalhematoma. It is a cephalhematoma. It is a type of a disease condition, we can say. It is a collection of blood between cranial bone and its overlying periosteum. Means cephalhematoma means it is a collection of blood. Blood means hemorrhage, we can say. Collection of blood where between cranial bone and its overlying periosteum. And bleeding is limited to the surface of a particular bone. Bleeding will be limited to the surface of a particular bone, and it is caused by the pressure of fetal head against the maternal pelvis. Here what happened at the time of birth or during the delivery process, what happened, pressure is created on the fetal head against the maternal pelvis. At that time what happened, hemorrhage may occur, collection of blood between cranial bones and its overlying periosteum. This pressure loosens the periosteum from the underlying bone, therefore rupturing capillaries and causing the bleeding. So what happened, it ruptures the capillaries and that causes bleeding. Here you can see in the picture, skull bones are there, then periosteum, then in scalp we will see edema is there, that is collection of blood between cranial bones and its overlying periosteum. And It is why it is caused. It is caused as a result of birth trauma. It is caused as a result of birth trauma during a prolonged or difficult labor. That is known as cephalematoma. And what is periosteum? Periosteum is the outer surface of the skull. Everybody know that. So this is cephalematoma. Then second is caput succedaneum. Here, caput succedaneum, it is an abnormal collection of fluid under the scalp on top of the skull that may or may not cross the suture line depending on the size. So here, what happened in caput succedaneum? It is the abnormal collection of fluid under the scalp or on the top of the skull that may or may not cross the suture line depending on its size. Caput succedaneum, mainly it appears as a lump or bump on the infant head shortly after the delivery. It doesn't indicate any damage to the brain or any damage to the bones of the cranium. Pressure on the presenting part of the fetal head against the cervix during labor may cause edema of the scalp. So, what happened? Pressure on the presenting part of the fetal head against the cervix at the time of labor can cause edema of the scalp, and this diffuse swelling is temporary and it will be absorbed within 2 to 3 days. It does not indicate any type of brain damage or any type of damage to the cranium. So here you can see in the pic, skull bone is there, then periosteum, and then you can see abnormal lump or bump in the infant head where abnormal collection of fluid is there. That is known as caput succedaneum. Then we will see characteristics of the newborn infant eyes and ears. So here we will see that newborn infant eyes are one of the greatest eyes. We can see it is one of the greatest moment in life, that first time newborn child opens his or her eyes and makes the eye contact with the world. That is one of the most special or precious moment for the parents. The infant eyes may not track properly and may cross strabismus or twitch, that is nystagmus. This will cause concern if it extends beyond 6 months of age. So here we can see that in the first week of life, babies don't see much detail. Their first view of the world is indistinct and only in shades of grey. So infant eye, what happened, may not track properly and it may cause strabismus. Strabismus means that eye doesn't look in exactly the same direction at the same time. That is known as strabismus. And also it can cause nystagmus. Nystagmus means it is an involuntary eye movement which may cause eye to rapidly move from side to side, up and down, or in a circle, and may slightly blur vision. So the infant eye may not track properly and may cause strabismus and nystagmus. Strabismus means that eye doesn't look exactly in the same direction at same time, and nystagmus is eye involuntary movement uh, where we can see that eye movement which may cause eye to rapidly move from side to side, up and down, or in a circle, and it is may slightly blur vision can be there. So it is normal for a newborn baby eyes to wander or cross occasionally during the first few months of life. It is normal, but by the time baby is up to 4 to 6 months old, eyes usually straighten out. So here if it extend beyond 6 months, this will cause concern. Then here we'll see color of the eye. Color of the eye at birth. At birth, the iris color is usually grayish or blue in Caucasians, or in white and grayish brown or brown in dark complexion races. So here we can see at birth of the baby the iris color is usually grayish blue in Caucasians or in white races, and grayish brown or brown in dark complexion races. And a gradual deposition of pigment produces the final eye color of the baby. A gradual deposition of pigment means a gradual deposition of which pigment? A gradual deposition of melanin pigment produces the final eye color of the baby at the age of 3 to 6 months, and sometimes it may take a year. So here a cell is there, melanocyte cell, which are cells whose role is to secrete the protein melanin where it is needed, and eye color is determined by the melanocyte cells. So melanocytes eye color is determined by this cell, that is melanocyte cells, and it deposits the melanin pigment to produce the final eye color of the baby. Then second is pupil. Pupil do react to light, and the infant can focus on object about 8 inches away. So the natural infant blinking is a natural protection reflex. So here if we'll see pupil do react to light, and infant or a newborn baby can focus an object up to 8 inches away. They can focus up to 8 inches away, and the infant blinking is a natural protection reflex. Then here lacrimal apparatus. Lacrimal apparatus is small at a time of birth, and it is non-functioning, and tears are not usually produced with crying until 1 to 3 months of age. So lacrimal apparatus, what they do, lacrimal apparatus is helpful in produce crying. So at the time of birth lacrimal apparatus is non-functioning, and tears are not produced. Tears are produced after 1 to 3 months of age. Then we'll go to ear. The infant ears tend to be folded and creased. A line drawn through the inner and outer canthi of the eye should come to the top notch of the ear where it joins the scalp. The infant usually responds to sound at birth. Here we will see that the infant at the time of birth, infant ear tend to be folded and creased, and also a line is drawn through the inner and outer canthi of the eye. Here you can see a picture. A line is drawn through the inner and outer canthi of the eye and should come to the top notch of the ear where it joins the scalp. So here three pictures we can see in the structure of the ear. First is a normal ear, second is the abnormal angled ear, and third is the low seated ear. So here abnormal and low set ear indicate abnormality like Down syndrome and Turner syndrome. So this is all about the structure of ear. Then next we will go to characteristics of the newborn infant's skin. So here we'll come to characteristics of newborn infant skin. As we all know that newborn skin is very delicate at the time of birth, and it appears dark red because it is thin and the layers of subcutaneous fat have not yet covered the capillary bed. So here we'll see that infant skin is very delicate at the time of birth, and it usually appears dark red in color because the layer of the skin is very thin and the layer of subcutaneous fat have not yet covered the capillary bed. Capillary bed means blood vessels. So here the layer of subcutaneous fat have not yet covered the blood vessels. And here we will see this redness can be seen through heavily pigmented skin and becomes even more flushed when the baby cries. So if this redness can be seen through heavily pigmented skin whose skin have more amount of melanocyte or whose skin is heavily pigment, so on that baby we can see redness is more, and it becomes even more flushed when the baby cries. Then after that we will see Vernix caseosa. So Vernix caseosa is here at birth. The infant is generally covered with Vernix caseosa. We all know that at birth, at the time of delivery, we can see that at the birth of an infant is generally covered with the Vernix caseosa. What is Vernix caseosa? It is a cream cheesy whitey substance adherent to the skin that serve as a skin lubricant. So Vernix caseosa is a soft white cheesy yellowish cream on the infant's skin at the birth. It offers protection from the watery environment of the uterus, and it is absorbed in the skin after birth, and it serves as a natural moisturizer to the baby. And if large amount of Vernix caseosa is present, it should be meticulously removed, and it is thought to be good culture medium for the bacteria. So if a large amount of Vernix caseosa is present in the infant, it should be meticulously removed, as it is thought to be a good culture medium for the bacteria. And this Vernix caseosa is helpful for protecting the baby against the infection, and should not and in and it should not be taken out, as it is a natural moisturizer. But if large amount of Vernix caseosa is there, it can be meticulously removed. Then second is lanugo. Lanugo, it is the first hair to be produced by fetal hair follicles. So what is lanugo? Lanugo is the first hair that is produced by fetal hair follicles, and this is a long soft growth of fine hair on the infant shoulders, back and forehead. So here we will see that long soft growth of fine hairs are there in infant shoulders, on an infant back, and also on the forehead, and it usually disappears early in the postnatal life, that it disappears on its own within a few weeks. Then we will see Mongolian spot. Mongolian spot is we can see these are the blue black coloration on the infant's lower back. You can see in the picture blue black coloration on the infant lower back, buttocks, and in the anterior trunk, and they are most often seen in the infants of black, Indian, Mongolian or Mediterranean ancestry. So they are most often seen in the infants of black, Indian, Mongolian and Mediterranean ancestry, and these spots occur less frequently in white races or in the white babies, and the spots are not the bruises. Bruises means blue, brown or purple mark that appear on the skin if somebody has fallen or been hit. So these are not the bruises, nor they are associated with any type of mental retardation. These are simply the spot, blue black coloration spot that appears on the infant lower back, buttocks and anterior trunk, and they usually disappear in the early childhood. Then we will see jaundice. We all know about the jaundice. Newborn jaundice is not harmful most of the time. For most of the babies, jaundice will get better without any treatment within 1 to 2 weeks. So here if you see, infant jaundice occur because baby's blood contain an excess of bilirubin, a yellow pigment of red blood cells, and it also usually occurs because a baby's liver isn't mature enough to get rid of bilirubin in the bloodstream. So here we will see that mild jaundice is nothing to worry about, and it will be resolved by itself within a week. And we all know that jaundice is yellow discoloration that may be seen in the infant's skin or in the sclera or in the eyes, and it is caused by excessive amount of free bilirubin in the blood and tissue, as baby's liver isn't mature enough to get rid of bilirubin in the bloodstream. However, if baby is premature or if baby is sick with very high level of bilirubin, then it will need close monitoring and the medical treatment. Otherwise, mild jaundice is nothing to worry about and it will reduce by itself within a week or so. Then next is petechiae. Petechiae, it may be due to the minor trauma or widespread due to the blood clotting disorder. Mainly, petechiae are formed when tiny blood vessels called capillaries break open. When these blood vessels break, blood leaks into the skin. So this is the main reason of the petechiae. These are small blue-red dots on the infant's body, which is caused by breakage of the tiny capillaries. Here you can see the pic of petechiae, small blue-red dots on the infant body caused by breakage of tiny capillaries. When blood vessels called capillaries break down, what happen? These blood vessels break and blood leaks into the skin. They may be seen on the face as a result of pressure exerted on the head during the birth. What happened? During birth, pressure exerted on the head can be the result of this petechiae, and 2 petechiae does not blanch on the pressure. Means it does not fade away on pressure. Then then the next topic is we will see milia. Milia, you can see in the picture, it is a small, firm, pearly, white papules 1 to 2 mm in size, predominantly occurring on the face of the newborn babies, especially cheek, nose and nasolabial fold and forehead. So what is milia? Milia is a tiny white bumps, we can say, that commonly occurs on the baby's face, where at cheeks, nose, nasolabial folds and forehead. And this milia is very common in newborn and no treatment is needed, and it usually disappear on their own in a few weeks or month. Milia is due to the blocked sweat and oil gland that have not began to function properly. So why milia is there? Milia is due to the blocked sweat and oil gland that have not begun to function properly. In treatment, we can see it usually disappears spontaneously during first 3 to 4 weeks. It does not require any treatment. Then next is birthmark. Birthmark happen when blood vessels don't form correctly. Either there are too many of them or they are wider than the usual. So at that time birthmark happen. These are small reddened areas sometimes present on the infant's eyelid, mid forehead and nape of the neck. So birthmark are small reddened areas which are present on infant eyelids, mid forehead and nape of the neck. You can see in the picture. They may be as a result of local dilatation of the skin capillaries and abnormal thinness of the skin. So birthmark occurs due to 2 reasons. First is local dilatation of the skin capillaries and second is abnormal thinness of the skin, and they are also called stalk bites or telangiectasia, means also known as salmon patch. So the other name of birthmark is stalk bites or salmon patch or telangiectasia. These marks usually fade and disappear altogether, and they may be only noticeable when infant blushes or when the infant is extremely warm or when infant becomes excited. Only at that time it is noticeable. Then next is hemangioma. Hemangioma or strawberry mark is a type of birthmark that is characterized by dark or bright red raised rough surface. So hemangioma is also a type of birthmark, also known as strawberry mark, that is characterized by dark or bright red raised rough surface. Here you can see in the picture. It is a rubbery bright red nodules of extra blood vessels. We can say that it is a rubbery bright red nodules of extra blood vessel, and it is seen more frequently among the premature babies. They do not develop for several days. They may regress spontaneously or may even increase in size. Means they can regress spontaneously or may even it increase in size. Surgical removal is not recommended. There is a wait and see attitude advocated before the surgical removal. So surgical removal is not advocated for this birthmark. There is a wait and see attitude advocated before any type of surgical removal. So here we'll see our next topic, that is characteristics of the newborn gastrointestinal system. In gastrointestinal system, firstly we'll deal with mouth. Infant lips should be pink and the tongue smooth and symmetrical. So when here we'll start with the mouth. So the infant lip should be pink and the infant tongue should be smooth and the tongue should be symmetrical, and the tongue should not extend or protrude between the lips. Means the tongue should not extend or protrude between the lips, and the connective tissue attached to the underside of the tongue should not restrict the mobility of the tip of the tongue. Means here we will see that the connective tissue attached to the underside of the tongue should not restrict the mobility of the tip of the tongue, because if it is there, then it is known as tongue tie. There is a condition known as tongue tie which restricts the mobility of the tongue, so it should not be there. And the gums may have tooth ridges along with them, and rarely a tooth or two may have erupted before birth, and that condition is known as natal tooth, where tooth is erupted before the birth of the baby. The roof of the mouth should be closed. So here we will see the roof of the mouth should be closed and the uvula should be present. Uvula means it is a small piece of flesh that hangs from the top of inside of the mouth just above the throat. The roof of the mouth should be closed, uvula should be present, and here we will see sometimes there are glistening spots, firm white or greyish white nodules, usually multiples on the palate, that are referred to as Epstein pearls. Epstein pearls are what? They are the glistening spot, firm white or greyish white nodules, usually in the multiples, that are known as Epstein pearls. Epstein pearls are very common, and it occurs up to 60 to 85% of the newborns. A common site for them is at the junction of the hard and soft palate. Here you can see in the picture, it is Epstein pearls, and the common site for the Epstein pearls is junction of the hard and soft palate. Then next is stomach. The capacity of the infant stomach is about 1 to 2 ounces, that is 30 to 60 ml at birth, but it increases rapidly. Milk passes to the infant's stomach almost immediately, and the infant is capable of digesting simple carbohydrate and protein, but has a limited ability to digest the fat. Here we will see that the capacity of the infant's stomach at the time of birth is only 1 to 2 ounces, that is 30 to 60 ml, but it increases rapidly, and milk passes to the infant's stomach almost immediately, and the infant is capable of digesting simple carbohydrate and protein, but has the limited ability to digest the fat. This topic we have already seen in the breastfeeding. Then next is intestine. Irregularity in peristaltic movement slows the stomach emptying. here we will see that irregularity of the peristaltic movement slows down the stomach emptying, and peristaltic increases in the lower ileum, which result in 1 to 6 stools per day. So if peristaltic increase in the lower ileum, it results in 1 to 6 stools a day. The first stool after the birth and for 3 to 4 days afterwards are called meconium. Here you can see the picture of the meconium. This is the first stool after birth, and for 3 to 4 days afterwards are called meconium. Meconium is stringy, tenacious and black and has a terry texture. You can see in the picture, meconium is stringy, tenacious and black and has a terry texture. Here you can see in this ray diagram, infant stool at birth, meconium is there, that is stringy, tenacious, black and terry texture. Then ingestion of colostrum and formula or formula feeding will be there. So few greenish stool will be there and yellow color will be there. Yellow color stool and greenish stool will be there. So here two arrows there. First is early infancy in early infancy, stool of formula fed baby. So the stool of formula fed baby will be lemon yellow color, soft and it will be more frequent. And stool of breastfed baby will be yellow orange color and curdy in nature. So it is the flow chart of the infant stool. At birth, meconium will be there, that is stringy, tenacious, black and terry texture. Then ingestion of colostrum or a formula feed will be there. At that time, few greenish stool will be there and also yellow color stool will be there. Two arrow is there. So stool of formula fed baby will be lemon yellow color, soft and more frequent, and the stool of breastfed baby will be yellow orange color and curdy in nature. Then we will see characteristics of the newborn circulatory system. So in circulatory system, first is the blood flow. When the umbilical blood stops flowing at birth, sudden pressure differences occur within the circulatory system. So here what happened, when the baby is in a womb, oxygen and nutrient from the mother's blood are transferred across the placenta to the fetus. So this enriched blood flows through the umbilical vein towards the baby's liver. But after baby is born, what happened? Umbilical blood stop flowing at birth and sudden pressure differences occurs within the circulatory system. So these differences cause the blood flowing to the lungs and liver to increase and blood flowing through the bypass channel decrease. So what happened? This condition cause two different things. Blood flowing to lungs and liver will increase and blood flowing through bypass channel will be decrease. So peripheral circulation refers to residual cyanosis in hands and feet. So what happened? Peripheral circulation will refers to the residual cyanosis of hands and feet, means hands and feet will be cyanosed. This may be apparent for up to 1 to 2 hours and after 1 to 2 hours after the birth, and is due to sluggish circulation. Blood is shunted to vital organs immediately after the birth. So immediately after the birth, blood is shunted to all the vital organs. Then blood coagulation. During the first few days of life, the prothrombin level decreases and clotting time in all infant is prolonged. So during first few days of life, what happened? The prothrombin level will be decreased and the clotting time of all the infant is prolonged. And this process is most acute between the second and fifth postnatal days. So it can be prevented to a large extent by giving vitamin K injection to the infant after the birth. We have all seen after the birth, vitamin K injection is administered to the baby, which helps in blood clot and it helps prevent serious bleeding. Vitamin K is administered to the baby 0.5 mg intramuscular. With the ingestion of food, establishment of digestion and maturation of the liver, vitamin K is manufactured by the baby and clotting time stabilizes within the week to 10 days. So here what happened, it can be prevented to a large extent by we will give vitamin K to the infant, and with the ingestion of food and establishment of digestion and maturation of the liver will be matured. So what happened, vitamin K is manufactured by the baby and clotting time will be stabilized within the week or within 10 days. Then characteristics of the newborn respiratory system. So in respiratory system, here, until the infant first breath of the air is taken, the alveoli or air sac is in the lungs are in an almost complete state of collapse. So here we will see, when the infant is taking his first breath of air, the alveoli or air sacs in the lungs are in an almost complete state of collapse, means complete state to fall down. So lungs should be in this state because the lungs must not fill with the amniotic fluid or other liquids. So lungs should not be filled with any type of amniotic fluid or any other liquids. However, the fluid or liquid that flows in the lungs during normal delivery is squeezed or drained out from the infant lungs. So any type of fluid or any amniotic fluid that flows into the lungs during the normal delivery is squeezed or drained out from the infant lung through the suctioning at the time of birth. Then next is, we will see characteristics of the newborn endocrine system. Endocrine system, here we'll see endocrine glands are considered as a better organized than other system, as endocrine glands are ductless gland, and it secrete their products, hormones, directly into the blood. So here endocrine glands are considered better organized than other system, and disturbance are most often related to maternally provided hormones. So disturbance are due to the maternally provided hormones like estrogen, luteal and prolactin, that may cause the following conditions. So here vaginal discharge will be there. Vaginal discharge and or bleeding may occur in the female infant. So here we will see, after the birth of the baby, vaginal discharge may occur on the female infant. This discharge is white mucoid in color, and bleeding may occur as a result of withdrawal from maternal hormones at the time of birth. So this why does bleeding occur? This bleeding is occur as a result of withdrawal from maternal hormone at the time of birth. These are usually only a few blood spots seen on the diapers, and the entire process terminates in 1 to this entire process terminates in 1 to 2 days. Then second here is enlargement of the mammary gland. Enlargement of mammary gland may occur in both the sexes, and it is being reported to occur in 65 to 90% of the infant. Means it is most common, and it is being reported to occur in 65 to 90% of the infant, and it occurs in both the sexes, that is both male and female. And this is particularly noticeable about the third day of life, where you can see in the picture enlargement of the mammary gland. So it is noticeable about the third day of life, and breast secretion may also occur, and swelling may also be there, and swelling usually subsides in 2 to 3 weeks, and the breast should not be squeezed. It only increases the chances of infection and injuries to the tender tissues. So here breast should not be squeezed, as it only increases the chances of infection and injuries to the tender tissues. Now next topic here is characteristics of the newborn neuromuscular system. So the neuromuscular system it includes all the muscles in the body and the nerves serving them. So the newborn infant exhibits remarkable sensory development and an amazing ability for self-organization in social interaction. Here we will see that newborn infant exhibit remarkable sensory development and also an amazing ability for self-organization in social interaction. The infant muscles are firm and resilient. Firm and resilient means the infant muscles are strong enough to deal with the illness and is able to stay in the same shape, that is known as firm and resilient. So the infant muscles are firm and resilient and has the ability to contract when stimulated, but it lacks the ability to control them. So what happened? The infant has the ability to contract when stimulated, but the infant lacks the ability to control them. He wiggles and stretches, but movements are uncoordinated. Means the infant try to wiggles and try to stretch his or her muscles, but the movement are uncoordinated. Here we will see cephalocaudal, that is head to toe development is there. In picture we can see head to toe development is there, that is cephalocaudal, and develop gross motor development occurs first, followed by the fine motor development. So here we will see that gross motor development will occur first. Gross motor development means, for example, walking, running, sitting, crawling, etc. So these are the gross motor development which will appear or occur first, followed by the fine motor development. The fine motor development means small muscle coordinations like writing, holding small items and turning the pages, eating. So these are the fine motor development. So here we will see that gross motor development will occur first, followed by the fine motor development. Then our next topic is reflexes. So here we will see what all reflexes are there in the newborn infant. So reflexes are the sudden movement or action that that the baby makes without thinking. So the question here is, why do newborn have reflexes? So that's because it usually occurs when the baby is startled by a loud sound. The baby throws back his or her head, extend out his or her arms and legs, cries, then pulls the arms and legs back in baby's own cry. That triggers the reflex. So here first reflex is sucking reflex. Here we can see the picture. What happens in sucking reflex? When a newborn lips are touched, the baby makes a sucking motion. When the newborn lips are touched, it makes a sucking motion, and this reflex helps the newborn find food. When the newborn lips touch the mother's breast or feeding bottle, the baby sucks and takes the food. The sucking reflex begins and diminishes at about 6 months of age. So here sucking reflex helps the newborn to find the food. When the newborn lips touch the mother's breast or any feeding bottle, the baby sucks and takes the food, and it usually disappears at about 6 months of age. Then rooting reflex. Here you can see in the picture, rooting reflex, touch a finger to the neonate cheek or the corner of the mouth. Just like you can see in the picture, touch a finger in the neonate cheek in the corner of the mouth, and neonate turns the head towards the stimulus, opens the mouth and searches for the stimulus. So if the cheek is brushed or stroked near the corner of the mouth, the newborn infant will turn the head in that direction. That is known as rooting reflex. Then is blinking reflex. Blinking reflex, bright light shining in eyes or clapping the hands near the eyes closes the eyelids quickly. So if bright light will be shining in the eyes, or if we will clap near the infant eyes, so in response the infant will close the eyelids quickly. Sudden movement towards the eye can elicit the blink reflex. So a sudden movement towards the eye, like clapping the hands near the eyes, so that can elicit the blink reflex. Then swallowing reflex. Swallowing reflex is food that reaches the posterior portion of the tongue automatically swallowed. In swallowing reflex, what happened? The food that reaches the posterior portion of the tongue is automatically swallowed. Here you can see gag, cough and sneeze reflexes are present to maintain airway in the event that normal swallowing does not keep the pharynx free from the obstructing mucus. So here gag, cough and sneeze reflex are present to maintain the airway in the event that normal swallowing does not keep the pharynx free from the obstructing mucus. Then the next is the more So the next is Moro reflex. Here we'll see in Moro reflex, baby is held horizontally, then swiftly lowered a few inches, or the head may be lowered a few inches, or a loud sudden noise will make baby's arms fling out and then come together as hands open then clutch. So here in Moro reflex, baby stretch out his arms with a startle or suddenly being released for an instant. Here we will see that what baby will do. Baby will stretch out his arms with a startle, with a startle on and sudden. Why? Because it is suddenly being released for an instant. So the baby will stretch out his arms. Absence or weakness of this reflex may suggest severely disturbed CNS. So, if Moro reflex will be absent or weak, so it may suggest severely disturbed central nervous system. Then next is startle reflex. Startle reflex, sudden loud noise causes abduction of the arms with flexion of elbow, hands remain clenched. So here in startle reflex, what happened? Sudden loud noise will cause abduction of the arms. Here you can see abduction of the arm is there with flexion of elbow, and hands will remain clenched. Clenched means hands will remain close or hold tightly. So here we can see in the picture, sudden loud noise causes abduction of the arm, flexion of elbow, and hand will remain clenched or closed tightly. This startle reflex will disappear by the age of 4 months. Then the next is palmar grasp reflex. Palmar grasp reflex is, if we will place a finger in a neonate palm, neonate will grasp that finger. So this palmar grasp reflex is disappeared at 3 to 4 months of age. Then is plantar reflex. Plantar reflex is pressing thumbs against the balls of baby's feet will make his toes flex. Means curling of toes round the object, curling of toes around the object. So that will makes the baby's toes flexed, and it usually disappears at 9 to 12 months of age. And absence of this reflex may indicate damage to the spinal cord. If this reflex is absent, plantar grasp reflex is absent, it may indicate the damage to spinal cord. Then the next reflex is stepping reflex. Stepping reflex, it is present at birth and it disappears at approx 2 to 4 months of age. Here, hold the neonate in an upright position and touch one foot lightly to a flat surface such as the bed. So here, when sole of a foot is pressed against the couch, baby tries to walk. Here, baby will try to walk. Neonate will make walking motions with both the feet. That is known as stepping reflex, and it usually disappears at approximately 2 to 4 months. Then next is Babkin reflex. Babkin reflex, when both of baby's palm are pressed, her eyes will close, mouth will open, and her head will turn to one side. In Babkin reflex, you can see in the picture, if both the baby's palm is pressed, the baby's eye will be closed, mouth will be open, and her head will turn to one side. So the absence of this reflex, or if it is reappears after vanishing around 3 to 4 months, it may significantly indicate malfunctioning of the central nervous system. So if this reflex is absent in baby, or if it reappears after vanishing, it may indicate the malfunctioning of central nervous system. Then the next reflex is Babinski reflex. In Babinski reflex, baby's foot is stroked from heel towards the toes. The big toe should lift up while the others fan out. So here we can see in the picture, baby's foot is stroked from heel towards the toes. So what happened, in response, the big toe should lift up, and while the fingers will fan out. Here you can see in the picture. And the absence of this reflex may suggest immaturity of the central nervous system, defective spinal cord, or any other problems or defects. Then the next is the tonic neck reflex, or it is also known as fencing posture. Tonic neck reflex, when a newborn lie on their back, their head usually turn to one side or the other. When the newborn is lying on their back, their head will be turned to one side or other side, and the arms and legs on the side towards which the head turns extend, and the opposite arm and leg contract. So here you can see in the picture, the arms and leg on the side where the baby's head is turned, so the arms and legs will extend, and the opposite arms and legs will be contract. And this is also called as the boxer or fencing reflex. Another name of the tonic neck reflex is boxer or fencing reflex. And this reflex disappears between the second and third month of life. This reflex usually disappears between second and third month of life. Then the next reflex is extrusion reflex. Extrusion reflex means, the meaning of extrusion means to force out. Extrusion reflex, newborn extrudes any substance that is placed on the anterior portion of the tongue. So here what the newborn do? Newborn extrudes any substance that is placed on the anterior portion of the tongue. So this protective reflex prevents the swallowing reflex of inedible items. So extrusion reflex prevents the swallowing reflex of inedible items, and it usually disappears at about 4 months of age. So this extrusion reflex disappears at 4 months of age. Then next we will see role of nurse in observation of newborn. So what are the role of nurse in observing a newborn? So firstly is to check the vital sign of the baby. From very first we have seen that we have to check the vital sign of the baby. Then weight is to be checked daily and evaluate according to the birth weight, as weight loss is normal in the first few days, but more than 10% of the body weight is lost is abnormal. Most of the baby gain the weight within 7 to 10 days. Thereafter, the weight gain rate is 150 to 200 gram per week. So here we have, the nurse should check the weight daily to evaluate the weight of the baby, as weight loss is normal in the first few days. Then look for any skin color changes such as cyanosis, or jaundice. Then next is feeding status of baby have to be assessed, amount of feeding, or any baby is having any difficulty in feeding, so that is to be assessed. Then head is to be assessed for any depression or bulging of fontanelles or any type of cephalohematoma or caput succedaneum, and resolution of caput succedaneum and molding should be checked. And we have nurse should have to look for the umbilical cord for drying in any presence of sepsis in the umbilical cord. Then nurse have to observe the baby for elimination any constipation and loose stool and sore buttocks. Observe the color of the urine. Frequency of passing urine is noted for the past 24 hours. Cleansing of the skin may be done daily or as frequently as required. And parent infant interaction is must needed. It develops the love bond between the mother and the baby. So parent infant interaction is very important, as it develops the love bond between the mother and the baby. So here we have completed the topic about the characteristics of the typical newborn infant. Thank you. If you are having any doubt, you can ask.